acceptable test or reliable test that will allow someone to come to the courtroom and discern that someone is lying. The issue of credibility and veracity is totally for the witness, for the jury, and not for the witness to talk about it.
Your Honor, in addition, the testimony has already been elicited that the defendant was dissembling. All right, this is apparently already means, according to Dr. Ducona, again, if I may make an offer of proof, that the defendant was lying and so forth. The evidence itself has been put on the record. He is simply explaining what dissembling means. As such, the objection would be untimely in addition.
Counsel, I'm confused. So I want to be fair, but you're saying that the good doctor has said that in his opinion the witness was dissembling, and the basis for that is the exam, so he should, since he already said the ground, he should be able to say the basis. Is that basically your argument?
He's said that he came to his conclusion that the defendant was dissembling, which was admitted into evidence. Now, to let that go unexplained to the jury.
Counsel, not having heard you object when the good doctor said dissembling, it is my opinion that you have waived your argument. You may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, maybe you heard one final time on that.
No. Could you please explain to the jury what dissembling means?
Yes, lying, trying to be deceitful, trying to hide the truth, faking.
And what about the chart indicates that the defendant was dissembling?
Well, his L and F and K scores are very interesting. The L scale, for example, is elevated. The lie scale is intended to identify individuals.
Objection, Your Honor. The mischaracterization of the L scale, this is also inconsistent with our pretrial motion to not have.
That's correct, counsel. I'm concerned that you are trying to perpetuate a fraud upon the court. You were ordered in preliminary motion not to have your witness describe the lot scale.
Move to strike it.
Move to strike is granted.
Yes, Your Honor.
Carefully, counsel.
Without characterizing what the L scale is, can you explain how the chart helps you come to the conclusion that the defendant was dissembling?
The L scale is intended to identify individuals who are deliberately trying to avoid answering the MMPI honestly and in frank manner. The clear indication is that he was lying significant portions of his anatomy clean off. The F scale, also known as fake, is at 65.
Objection, Your Honor. Mischaracterization of the F scale. This was not the subject of our pretrial motion, but the basis for that objection is the single score.
Not having heard the objection earlier, I find it way denied. You proceed, counsel.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Dr. Ciccone, you're aware that there's more than 1,000 different mental diseases or defects, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. This is in violation of Local Rule 74E. Counsel is attempting to elicit information located or not located
For
within.
clarity of the court, for the court, please describe the local rule.
Rule 74E forbids a crossing attorney from eliciting testimony that is not within the actual document of the former testimony itself. As such, since this is not information that can be found within that document, it is in violation of Local Rule 740.
Your Honor,
You wish for your...
yes, I do. Your Honor, the witness has already testified that Mr. Draft had no mental diseases or defects. I'm simply trying to explore the depth and the scope of his evaluation. If he has discounted all 1,000 mental diseases or defects as affecting Mr. Draft, the jury has the opportunity to know that.
Counsel, I'm going to overrule your objection for right now. Counsel, you're going to be on a short leash. Please get to the point as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Your Honor. There are more than 1,000 different mental diseases or defects, correct? And it is your testimony here today that you've examined all of those mental diseases or defects in the course of a half an hour, correct?
Yes.
In addition to that half-an-hour interview with Mr. Draft, you based some of your conclusions on MMPI, correct? And an MMPI is a psychological exam used by psychiatrists to analyze a patient's personality, correct?
Correct.
It's typically used whenever a psychiatric evaluation is performed, correct? The examining psychiatrist performs that examination, correct?
Correct.
You didn't perform an MMPI in this particular case, did you?
No.
Despite the fact that it's an authority in psychiatric evaluations.
Yes.
And you also stated you interviewed Mr. John Draft immediately after his blackout, correct?
Correct.
Did you come back and interview him again?
No.
Dr. Ciccone, do all mental diseases or defects manifest themselves in a particular instance?
Yes.
So mental diseases or defects could show up at different periods of time.
Yes.
But you didn't re-interview Mr. Draft a year after your first consultation with him, did you?
No.
You didn't interview him 6 months after that.
No.
In fact, since your initial consultation with Mr. Draft, you haven't seen him at all
Correct.
before you got in court here today.
Correct.
During the course of that evaluation, you stated that you examined Mr. Draft and he made some comments to you, correct?
Yes.
Was one of those comments that he was on medication?
No.
Was one of those comments that he had just recovered from an 8-day blackout?
Yes.
Did you investigate his medical history?
Yes.
Did you investigate the medical treatment that occurred during this 8 days?
No.
Did you know that Mr. Draft was given medication?
Yes.
During the course of this, you also state that the MMPI is unreliable because of the validity scales, correct?
Yes.
And are you aware that MMPI requires some additional expertise,
Yes.
some additional training,
Yes.
some additional specialized literature on the MMPI?
Yes.
One of those resources you relied upon was a treatise made by Chris Johnson, correct?
Correct.
Dr. Chris Johnson is the same Dr. Chris Johnson we'll hear from later today, correct?
Correct.
She's a leading MMPI expert, correct? A leading forensic psychologist.
Yes.
In her treatise, she states that merely reading the computer printouts would produce inaccurate interpretations of the results, correct?
Correct.
You didn't do an MMPI on your own, did you?
No.
You didn't rescore this, did you?
No.
This is computer generated, correct?
Correct.
You relied upon this, correct?
No.
You didn't rely upon the MMPI results?
Well, with my interview, because it can't be relied upon by itself.
Court's indulgence. Dr. Ciccone, you analyzed Mr. Draft on a particular day, correct?
Correct.
And your results and your opinions are based upon what you observed on that particular day, correct?
No.
You didn't observe Mr. Draft on May 14, 2011, did you?
No.
You didn't observe Mr. Draft on May 13, 2011, did you?
No.
And your credentials don't allow you to make opinions about those dates, do they?
I'm not sure.
No further questions.